Hey guys, it's Joshua here, and today we're back with another handheld emulator review. Today we've got the Anbernic RG35XX. Now this cost me about $104 including shipping. I'll put a conversion up on the screen. It took about 13 days to get here to Australia. And yeah, so I'm really excited to review this one. I've heard a lot about it. It's very comparable to the Miyoo Mini, which I also like. So without further ado, let's get into the unboxing. Hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so let's rip into the box. So we'll just open this up here. Alright, and it looks like the first thing we see is the actual device itself in the packaging. So we'll just take this out and have a look at it first. So we'll just see if we can pry this out. And we'll open this up. Pull this out here. We got a little foam cover over the front, and here we have the actual device. It looks really nice. I really like this clear shell. And yeah, let's look at the back. It looks like the sticker on the back is out of place, but besides that, the console looks pretty good. Really like how it looks with the clear colorway. But let's see what else is in the box. So it looks like we have a little manual. This will probably tell you how to install ROMs and how shortcuts work. And we've also got a screen protector, a free screen protector, so that's pretty cool. And I believe here we have our USB charging cable, just ripped into it. So, yep, it's a USB charging cable, USB-C. So just a basic normal one you get with nearly every device. And now we'll just have a look at the manual that was included. So it says instructions. We'll just open it up here. And from the look of it, it does tell you shortcuts and buttons for the stock OS that comes with the RG35XX. So yeah, looks like it's just stock OS instructions and what the charging light does. So I believe that's everything we have in the box. So I'll go whack the screen protector on, and then we'll come back and we'll actually check out the device itself. So I'll just do that real quick. Alright, so now we're back. I've put the screen protector on. It is not perfect. It's a bit off, so I will have to fix that later. But for now, let's get into the device itself. So to start off with, we've got our menu, select start, speakers, face buttons, and D-pad all on the front here. They're very clicky. And on the bottom, we have our USB-C charging port and a headphone jack. On the side, we've just got our volume buttons up and down. And on the top, we actually have a mini HDMI port out, so you can actually put this on a TV if you wanted to. On the other side, we have our power, reset, and we have two SD card slots. The first one is for OS, and the second one is for storage, for like your ROMs and that. So it does say this is the first one, and this is the second one. And finally, on the back, we have our R1, R2, L1, L2 on the back, and also our sticker that's offside. I don't know. That might have just been a error at the factory, but yeah, that's the whole device. So I've also just put the specs on the screen real quick for you to have a look at, and then we'll look at the size comparison. Alright, and now onto the size comparison. So it's smaller than my hand, and here it is next to the Miyoo Mini Plus. As you can see, it's just slightly bigger. I'd say like a few centimeters maybe. And here it is with the RG Nano. Now, it's pretty much double the size, but even though it's still double the size, this device is still easily pocketable like the Miyoo Mini Plus. So, as you can see, we have the device here. It easily fits in my jeans pocket, and it's not going to fall out easily, and it's going to be very easy to take back out. So that's good. So it's definitely a small device, definitely very pocketable. And now, let's boot it up. So let's actually turn on the device for the first time. So it'll still be running the stock OS. and we get a little Anbernic logo when we first started up. And here we are on the stock OS experience. Now it looks like it has 5 options here, and there's a little beeping sound every time you choose, but here's all the emulators that it has. So it just has the basics that nearly all of these ones have: NES, PS1, GBA and everything. So we'll just look at the settings real quick. We got battery, shutdown, date and time, IO test, button sound. We want to turn that off. So we'll just close that. We've got icon settings, background settings, language settings, and schedule power off, backlight time, backlight brightness. There seems to be 5 brightness options that you can choose from. It doesn't look very bright unless it's on number 5, to be honest, but now we've got back buttons custom and a few other options. In this video I won't be using the stock OS, but I'll actually be installing a custom firmware called Garlic OS. So I'll just take the SD card out and quickly put Garlic OS on, and we'll come back and have a look at it. Alright, so now we're back after installing Garlic OS. I'll actually make a video about it, and we've just put it on the default SD card, so we'll just plug this into slot 1. This is slot 1. So we'll just go ahead and plug that in there. And now we'll boot it up. So we'll have to hold the power button for a little bit, and we are now loading up Garlic OS. So the menu looks very similar to Onion OS. So we have 4 options here: recent, favorites, consoles, and RetroArch. It looks like I have no favorites or recents because I actually haven't played anything on this yet, but it looks like... And I've just pressed the R button on the side because I wanted to see what it actually did, and it turns out it's restart. So now we're booting back into Garlic OS. And now that we have Garlic OS installed, it's time to get into the emulation testing. So let's get into it. Alright, to start off here, we got Wario Land 3 on the Game Boy Color. As you can see, running beautifully. This will easily play most Game Boy Color games you throw at it. And up next, we have Mortal Kombat 3 on the SNES. Now, with fighting games on the Anbernic RG35XX, there is a problem with the D-pad. Sometimes when you press left or right, it may do a diagonal instead. It's a problem with the contacts. There is a fix for this by putting on electrical tape over a certain part of the D-pad, which will kind of fix the problem, but it's just a little thing to think about when you're playing fighting games on this device. As for SNES emulation, it will run pretty much everything well except a few exceptions, like Yoshi's Island 2. Next up, we have the original Sonic the Hedgehog on Mega Drive. Now this runs perfectly. It'll probably run most Mega Drive games pretty well. I don't really play Sega consoles, so I can't really comment, but it runs them pretty well, as far as I can see. And finally, we're on to the Game Boy Advance, and we are playing Dragon Ball Z Boo's Fury. This runs pretty well, as you can expect. It's definitely built for Game Boy games. It does run most of them extremely well. It's a good device to play, you know, Pokemon titles on, but it will run most Game Boy games perfectly. And the device also has a real-time clock installed, and this will actually work for some Game Boy games and some ROM hacks that support real-time clock. And now we have PS1. For the PS1, we're playing Tekken 3. This is one of the more demanding PS1 titles, and it's running beautifully. Now, you will have the misinputs here from the D-pad when you're playing fighting games, but this is a great device for like RPGs like Final Fantasy or Chrono Cross. This is a very, very good device to play them on, and PS1 runs beautifully. Very good for PS1. Now, you can actually play more devices with this device, with a different custom OS, because this chip in the device actually has a GPU which is locked on Garlic OS and stock OS, but with another custom firmware you can actually unlock that GPU and play Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, DS and PSP. So this is the OS here. It's called Kariki. I hope I said that correctly. And installing this custom firmware will unlock the GPU that is included in the console on the CPU and allow you to play DS and 64, PSP, Dreamcast. So this is actually an added bonus. So let's see how they run now. And here we have Banjo-Kazooie on the Nintendo 64. Now it runs pretty decent, but there is still some graphical errors. And the way the emulator is set up is B is A and A is B. But yeah, it runs pretty decent. There is graphical errors, and another thing is with the Nintendo 64 is you'll lose the C-pad pretty much. You won't be able to play because the D-pad's mapped to the analog stick, so just keep that in mind. You won't be able to play most games because of the limited controls. And here we have Advance Wars Dual Strike on the Nintendo DS. Now, DS runs pretty well actually, most of them do, but some games will just run very, very slow. And there's also no touchscreen capability. So you'll only be able to play games that do not have a touchscreen capability, but the OS already has hotkeys installed to swap screens, so you could easily play games that just use the D-pad and the face button and the triggers and etc. So there's no touchscreen on the DS. And here we have Persona 3 Portable on the PSP. It's running PPSSPP, and it runs actually very well. You might be able to run some games on 2x resolution, but because there's no circle pad, you'll only be able to play games that only use the D-pad to move, such as Persona. The Persona games use the D-pad to move, so they're easily playable. So just keep that in mind. There's no circle pad, so you can only play games that do not have the circle pad. Alright, so let's move on to the pros and cons of the RG35XX. So we'll start with the pros. Pro number one is that it's ergonomic. It's very good to hold. The bigger size actually feels better in my hands than the Miyoo Mini Plus. I do find my hands getting a bit sore with that one after a little while, but the bigger size, this one, just feels better. Another feature is the built-in real-time clock, another pro. So this is good for games that use the real-time clock, like ROM hacks or some GBA games. Another pro is that it's cheap for what you get. I mean, you can play DS, Nintendo 64, PSP, Dreamcast on this, and it's, $100. It's pretty good. And then adding to that, another pro is the GPU. So the GPU will allow you to play those said systems, which is a bonus on top of what you already have. So, and the final pro is that there's 2 SD card slots, so you can have one as your OS and one as your ROMs, and you could switch that SD card to another system. So say you could actually put an Onion OS SD card into the slot 2 and play your ROMs and saves off that, so that's pretty good. And for the cons, the build quality is a bit shoddy. It rattles a bit when you shake the device. I know you won't be shaking the device, but the triggers are a bit loose on the back, so I don't really like that. Another con is the stock operating system. It's not very good. You just install Garlic OS. It's 10 times, 20 times better. And the last con is that there's no Wi-Fi. But, it's a cheap device. There's no Wi-Fi. The revision coming up will have Wi-Fi, but just keep that in mind. There's no Wi-Fi, so you can't sync anything. You can't do cloud saves or browse the internet. Alright, and we've reached the end of the review. I definitely recommend this device. I actually am starting to like it more than the Miyoo Mini Plus, which is surprising because I didn't really think I'd like this, but it's definitely a great device for what you get. So I'd recommend go get it. If you are on the fence about one or the other, I reckon you should get this one. Or if you really want to, you can wait for the Plus of this, which is coming out later. That'll have Wi-Fi. I think they said an upgraded trip. I'm not too sure, but it'll be better. So thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, leave a like. If you have any feedback for me about my reviews, I trying my best. I would love some feedback from you guys. Let me know what I could improve on. And yeah, that's everything. So I hope you guys have a nice day, and peace.